I call a member for Goldstein.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Deputy Speaker, an injustice somewhere is an injustice everywhere. And that fundamental principle guides so many of the discussions that we believe in our common humanity, about the ideals that we share for ourselves, but also the safety and the security for so many other people across this world. And the reality is that is not being fully realised for the Kurds as a result of the situation along the border with Turkey in Syria. Because as many speakers in this debate have already raised, the Kurds have no homeland. It's a contest that dates back for a very long period of time and was compounded by significant military events that have occurred in the past. Member for Browra rightly recalled the challenges faced by the Kurds and the attacks they received under the regime of Saddam Hussein and Iraq. A deliberate attempt to inflict pain, suffering and murder on the Kurds against a group of people who are our country's natural allies. And the tragedy of the Kurds isn't just one that sits in isolation. It sits across a backdrop of many equivalent ethno-religious targeted attacks on minorities in that part of the world. And drawing on my own family's experience, including targeted against the Armenians in the past, and one of the things that we learned at every point where there are forms of genocide or deliberate or malicious attacks or murder based on ethno-religious identity, we say never again, yet they keep going. And I say that particularly, Deputy Speaker, because of the disturbing situation and the decision of the United States to withdraw. Now, of course, they are not the ones who are responsible for this attack, but we cannot ignore the contribution of their withdrawal to the situation that Turkey has taken advantage of. Now, of course, the Morrison government and Australia rightly makes it clear that the Syrian Democratic Forces have been steadfast and reliable partners for our country and, of course, the international coalition against the fight of our common enemy, Islamic State. And that is the basis in which, among many other, we should be supporting them and their purpose and their right to live freely from persecution without violence. The Syrian Democratic Forces have suffered significant casualties during their counter-terrorism operations, and Australia has greatly acknowledged and will continue to acknowledge their courage and their sacrifices against Islamic State. Now, as the member for Browra rightly outlined, Turkey has legitimate security concerns, but it is not the basis to cross borders. It is to confront the challenges that they face within their territory. Instead, by crossing over, it has created issues of stability, safety and security. And ultimately, Turkey is responsible for the conduct for which they have engaged. Because by crossing the border into Syria, the Turkish military forces and Turkish-supported militia forces have operated under Turkish government orders and committed terrible crimes. This incursion is having a significant humanitarian impact, and the full brunt of it is being felt by the Kurds. It is causing additional civilian suffering, massive population displacement, and, of course, inhibiting the capacity for many humanitarian organisations to provide their support for those who need it. We don't know the full consequence of the Turkish incursion so far, but they own every part of their incursion and the humanitarian impact, and we should never turn a blind eye as a nation. Our best interest, like with all other countries, is to have safety, stability and security for all peoples. Culture and traditions informs the boundaries that nations take. And our interest is to be allied to those who are allied to us. And that is what the Kurds have done. So in their time of suffering and need, it's incumbent on us to stand up and speak out with one voice in their favour and to condemn the behaviour that has led to their suffering. I know that many members of the Kurdish community in Australia suffer too, because they do not know the impact it has on their fellow countrymen and women and their nation. And for that, we can only offer our steadfast support.